He went on a weekend getaway with his mistress. I lodged with his dad in the next room, Euphrates. I always thought betrayal would come with thunder, a loud crash, a scream, something cinematic that would warn you before your world broke. But no, mine arrived quietly, tucked inside an Instagram story that vanished in 24 hours. It was a Friday afternoon when I saw it. A short clip of clinking champagne glasses, sunlight dancing off a hotel pool, and a hand I knew too well. That watch. The silver one I had bought for Daniel on our anniversary, engraved on the back with Forever, Your Faith. I'd know it anywhere. At first I laughed. Not the funny kind of laugh, though, the broken, disbelieving kind. I replayed that story so many times my phone nearly overheated. Every detail betrayed him. The sound of his voice faintly in the background, the same hotel we'd visited 2 years ago for our honeymoon, and the caption from her account that read, "Weekend with my favorite person." My favorite person. That was the moment the laughter stopped. My stomach twisted so hard I had to sit down. I didn't cry. Not immediately. I just stared at my reflection on the black screen of my phone, and for a second I didn't recognize the woman looking back. Daniel had been distant for weeks. Late nights, sudden work trips, the kind of excuses that come rehearsed, said too smoothly. My instincts had whispered something was wrong, but I silenced them. Because love does that. It teaches you how to lie to yourself beautifully. But that day, my silence ended. I didn't call him, didn't text. I just sat there, my heart pounding like a war drum, and a strange calm washed over me. Not the kind that soothes, but the kind that warns something inside you has snapped. And then an idea formed, not just any idea, revenge. Not the kind where you slash tires or throw clothes out the window. No, I wanted something poetic. Something unforgettable. Something that would make his soul itch every time he remembered it. So I called his father. Now, Mr. Thompson is the kind of man who still holds doors open and wears cologne that smells like leather and wisdom. He's kind, old-fashioned, the kind of father-in-law every woman secretly wishes for, and he loved me, maybe even more than Daniel did. When he picked up, his voice was warm, cheerful. "Faith, sweetheart, what a lovely surprise. How are you?" I took a deep breath. "Mr. Thompson," I said, keeping my tone calm, "how do you feel about a little weekend getaway?" There was a pause, then a chuckle. "Getaway with my favorite daughter-in-law? I'd be a fool to say no." By the next morning, we were in the car. He thought it was just a sweet trip, father-in-law and daughter-in-law bonding. But I had a destination in mind. The same resort Daniel and his mistress had checked into. I'd seen it tagged in her story. I knew the rooms, the pool, even the view from the balcony. I remember gripping the steering wheel, my heart a cocktail of pain and adrenaline. Mr. Thompson chatted beside me, oblivious, humming to an old radio song, while I silently rehearsed what I'd say when I saw Daniel. Would I confront him? Expose him? Or just let him see me, calm, composed, untouchable? When we finally arrived, I spotted them immediately. There he was, Daniel, standing by the lobby entrance, his arm around her waist, like she was something precious. They looked like a glossy magazine ad for Betrayal. I almost laughed out loud. The receptionist greeted us with a smile. "Welcome, checking in?" "Yes," I said sweetly, never taking my eyes off Daniel. "I'd like a room right next to theirs, please." Mr. Thompson glanced at me, curious. "You know them?" I smiled. "Oh yes, quite well." That night, the walls were thin enough for me to hear everything. Their laughter, their little whispers, the cheap romantic music. It was supposed to hurt, but oddly, it didn't. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the bed, and smiled, because I knew what was coming. Around 11 p.m., there was a gentle knock on my door. It was Mr. Thompson, in his robe, holding 2 glasses of wine. "Couldn't sleep," he said. "Thought I'd join you for a nightcap." I let him in. We sat, talked, and laughed about everything. Daniel's childhood, his terrible taste in shirts, the time he failed his driving test twice. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace. Maybe it was the wine, maybe it was the absurdity of it all, but I started giggling uncontrollably. "What's so funny?" he asked, amused. I wiped a tear from my eye. "Your son. He's here, in this hotel, with another woman." His smile faded. "What?" I nodded, still smiling, because at that point my anger had melted into something else. Power. Room 306. We're in 307. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, to my absolute surprise, Mr. Thompson leaned back and said, "Well, I'll be damned, that boy's a fool." And then he laughed. A deep, belly-shaking laugh that filled the room. It was contagious. I joined in, laughing until my stomach hurt. "Faith," he said between chuckles, "you're telling me we're spending the night next door to my idiot son and his mistress?" "Exactly," he raised his glass. "Then let's make it a weekend to remember." The next morning, I woke up to the sound of birds and the faint clinking of plates from the breakfast hall. I got dressed in my best outfit, a red dress that Daniel used to call his weakness, and met Mr. Thompson by the elevator. We walked into the breakfast area together, looking like a duo straight out of a luxury magazine spread. Daniel was there, of course, sitting with his mistress, his hand resting on hers. When he saw us, his jaw dropped. The fork slipped from his hand and clattered against the plate. I smiled, tilting my head slightly. "Good morning, sweetheart. How's the work retreat going?" Mr. Thompson sipped his coffee calmly and added, "Son, you didn't tell me your company's retreats included bikinis." You could have heard a pin drop. Daniel's mistress froze mid-bite, her eyes darting between us. Daniel looked like someone had unplugged his soul. "Dad, this isn't, what are you doing here?" he stammered. "Oh, we're on a little getaway," his father said, smiling. "Faith invited me. Didn't she tell you?" I leaned closer, my voice sweet as honey. "We checked in last night, room 307, right next to yours." And then I winked. The silence that followed was delicious. The silence after my wink could have been bottled and sold as discomfort. Daniel looked like a man watching his life collapse in slow motion. His mistress excused herself so quickly, her chair screeched across the floor. I just sat there, smiling, swirling my orange juice like I had front row tickets to his downfall. Mr. Thompson, calm as a monk, reached for the toast basket. "Relax, son," he said casually. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Daniel stuttered something about coincidence, about how this wasn't what it looked like. His father raised an eyebrow. Really? Because it looks exactly like what it looks like. I nearly snorted my coffee. After a few minutes of beautifully awkward silence, Daniel muttered something about needing to talk privately. I stood up, smoothed my dress, and said, "Of course, honey. But make it quick. Your dad and I booked the spa." Mr. Thompson choked on his tea, trying not to laugh. We left him there, pale, sweating, pretending to text, while we walked toward the pool. The sun was merciless, but I felt lighter than I had in weeks. The kind of light that comes when you realize the person who hurt you is finally drowning in their own choices. At the spa, I sank into the massage chair, half smiling as the tension in my shoulders melted. Mr. Thompson was beside me, flipping through a magazine. He looked over the top of it and said, "Faith, you handled that like a queen." I grinned. I wasn't trying to. I just stopped acting like a servant. That line made him laugh, deep and proud. And something about that sound filled the air between us with a strange, warm energy. We weren't flirting, not exactly, but there was an undeniable closeness. The kind that grows between two people who have just survived a ridiculous war together. Later that afternoon, the resort hosted a cooking class, couples only. I saw the sign, looked at him, and said, "Want to crash it?" He smirked. "Absolutely." We walked in, both of us wearing matching aprons that said "Kiss the Cook." Daniel and his mistress were already there, of course, looking miserable. His mistress's fake smile twitched when she saw us. "Oh, what a coincidence," I said sweetly. "We didn't know you two loved cooking." Daniel's father took a spot beside me, rolling up his sleeves. "I'll be your partner, Faith. Can't let amateurs ruin a good meal." The instructor paired us by station. There we were, me and Mr. Thompson at one table, Daniel and his trembling mistress at the next. Every now and then, I'd glance at Daniel. He looked like he was chopping vegetables out of pure rage. "Steady hand, son," his father teased. "You're making the carrots nervous." Laughter rippled through the room. Daniel's jaw clenched tighter. At one point, the instructor told us to taste our partner's sauce and give honest feedback. Mr. Rath Thompson dipped a spoon, fed me a taste, and asked softly, "Too spicy?" I leaned in slightly, close enough for Daniel to see. "Perfect," I said, meeting his eyes with a smile. Daniel dropped his spoon. The rest of the class was chaos. His mistress accidentally burned the onions, Daniel muttered curses under his breath, and I was too busy laughing with Mr. Thompson to care. By the end, our dish actually won the challenge. The instructor handed us a small bottle of wine and said, "For the best team, clearly in sync." Mr. Thompson winked. "We do make a great pair." I accepted the wine with a grin. Always have. That night, Daniel tried knocking on my door. I ignored the first 3 knocks. On the 4th, I opened it halfway, just enough to see his panicked face. "Faith, please. Can we talk?" he whispered. Behind me, Mr. Thompson's voice called from inside. "Everything okay, Faith?" Daniel froze. His eyes darted from me to the sound of his father's voice. I leaned against the doorframe. "Everything's perfect," I said softly. "Just enjoying the weekend." He swallowed hard. You're staying with Dad?" I smiled. He needed company, someone trustworthy. His jaw tightened. "This is insane." "No," I said, tilting my head. "What's insane is lying to your wife and bringing your mistress to the same resort you once brought me to." He opened his mouth to speak, but I closed the door before he could form a word. The click of the latch felt like closure. Inside, Mr. Thompson looked up from the couch. "Was that him?" "Yes," I said, exhaling. He wanted to talk. "And you?" I told him we already said everything worth saying. He nodded approvingly. Then, with a small smile, he said, "You know, Faith, I think this trip might actually teach him something." I laughed. "Oh, I'm counting on it." The rest of the night passed quietly, though the air between us still hummed with shared mischief. We stayed up late playing cards, sipping the wine we'd won, laughing about everything, from Daniel's horrified face to the absurdity of the situation. At some point, Mr. Thompson looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "You deserve better than this. Don't ever let him convince you otherwise." I met his gaze. There was nothing romantic in it, just kindness, strength, and a promise that I wasn't alone. And for the first time since the betrayal, I believed it. But the best part? The next morning, word had spread around the resort. Guests whispered. People stared. Someone even asked me quietly at the buffet, "Are you the wife?" I smiled. The only one who showed up. Daniel avoided us completely after that. He spent most of the day locked in his room while his mistress tried to make herself invisible. Meanwhile, Mr. Thompson and I became the resort's favorite duo. Everyone assumed we were some charming travel pair. We didn't correct them. When the trip ended, Daniel left early, muttering excuses about work. I didn't even wave goodbye. Mr. Thompson and I stayed one more night just to enjoy the peace we'd earned. That evening, sitting by the balcony, watching the ocean glow under the moonlight, I finally felt it. Freedom. Not just from Daniel's betrayal, but from the quiet fear that had kept me small for years. I turned to Mr. Thompson and said, "You know, this might be the best weekend of my life." He chuckled. "Mine too, sweetheart. Mine too." The ride home from the resort felt like driving away from a bad movie set. The ocean disappeared behind us, but the quiet victory in my chest stayed. Mr. Thompson hummed along to the radio as if we'd just returned from a comedy road trip instead of a family disaster. I checked my phone. Notifications exploded across the screen. Comments, screenshots, and messages. It seemed that someone at the resort had posted a picture of me and Mr. Thompson winning that cooking class, tagging the resort's account. The caption read, "Father-daughter team goals, weekend vibes." I laughed so hard I nearly cried. The comment section was full of strangers cheering us on, and one particular comment, left by Daniel's mistress, simply said, "Unbelievable." I took a screenshot for memory's sake. By the time we reached the city, I wasn't even angry anymore. Betrayal had done its worst. Now it was just fuel. Mr. Thompson insisted on dropping me off first. Before I got out, he said quietly, "Faith, don't let him twist this back on you. Whatever happens next, keep your head high." I nodded. squeezed his hand, and watched his car drive away. The house was exactly how I'd left it. Too quiet, too neat, like it had been holding its breath. A few hours later, Daniel came in dragging his suitcase, his shirt half tucked, his expression a mix of guilt and exhaustion. "Faith," he started, "we need to talk." I didn't even look up from the magazine I was flipping through. "About which part? The lies, the trip, or the part where you almost fainted at breakfast?" He exhaled sharply. "Can we please not make this harder?" "Oh, I'm sorry," I said sweetly. "Am I making your cheating hard for you?" He rubbed his face, pacing. "It was a mistake, okay? A stupid one-time thing. I didn't mean for you to find out." "That's the problem," I said. "You didn't mean for me to find out, not that you didn't mean to do it." Silence. Just the sound of his guilt filling the room. Then, as if the universe wanted to punctuate the moment, his phone buzzed. He looked down, paled, and groaned. "What is it?" I asked, though I already suspected. He hesitated before muttering, "My mom saw the resort post. She thinks Dad and you were there for some kind of retreat together." I put a hand to my chest. Oh, the irony. His phone buzzed again, his mother this time, calling. He ignored it. Then it buzzed once more, and again. I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. "You might want to answer. She sounds concerned." He finally picked up. I only heard his side of the conversation, a series of panicked explanations, followed by several, "No, Mom, it's not like that." And finally, "Please stop shouting, I can't explain on speaker." When he hung up, he looked like he'd aged 10 years. "She's furious. She says Dad's not answering his phone and that we've embarrassed the family." "Oh, don't worry," I said, pouring myself a drink. "We were very well behaved. Everyone thought we were adorable." He glared. "You did this on purpose." "Of course I did," I said, meeting his eyes. "You thought you could play me quietly. I decided to make some noise." He didn't have a comeback. Just stood there, deflated, his mouth opening and closing like a goldfish in shock. Later that evening, his parents showed up. Mr. Thompson walked in first, calm as always, followed by Mrs. Thompson, whose expression could curdle milk. She went straight for Daniel. "Is it true?" she demanded. "You took another woman on a trip, and your father found out because he was there?" Daniel groaned. "Mom, please." "Oh, don't mom me," she snapped. "You have disgraced this family. Your father and Faith were the talk of that resort. Everyone thought they were the perfect pair. Meanwhile, you—" I had to look away to hide my smile. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "He knows he was wrong," he said simply. "What matters now is what Faith wants." The room fell silent. Every eye turned to me. I set down my glass. "I want peace," I said evenly, "and I'm not sure that's possible here anymore." Daniel started to speak, but his mother raised a hand. "Let her finish," I continued. "I've spent years covering for him, believing him, excusing him. I think I finally reached the point where I'd rather be alone and sane than together and suspicious." Mr. Thompson nodded slowly. "Then that's what you should do." Daniel looked between us, his face crumpling. "Dad, you're taking her side?" "I'm taking the side of the only adult in this room," his father said. Mrs. Thompson turned to me, her tone softening. "Faith, I'm so sorry, dear. You didn't deserve any of this." I smiled faintly. "Thank you, but honestly, I'm fine. I already got my closure." Daniel muttered, "By humiliating me?" "No," I said, "by showing you that I'm not afraid to walk away smiling." That night, he slept on the couch. I didn't sleep at all, but it wasn't the usual kind of insomnia. It was quiet, strong, the kind that comes when you finally stop begging someone to love you properly. The next few days were chaos. Word spread fast. Friends, coworkers, even neighbors started giving Daniel awkward looks. A few of them congratulated me privately for staying graceful. Someone at his office apparently sent him the resort post with a caption that said, "Your wife's got better taste." He quit the job 2 weeks later. As for me, I started fresh. I moved into a small apartment with big windows and too much sunlight. The first morning there, I made coffee and smiled at my reflection. I didn't see the broken woman from before, just someone who finally looked alive. A week later, I received a message from Mr. Thompson. "Hope you're settling in, Faith? Dinner sometime? Purely friendly. I promise." I laughed and typed back, "Only if you promise to bring that famous lasagna recipe." I didn't expect peace to feel this loud. My new apartment hummed with silence. No constant phone buzzes, no cautious glances toward the door, no heavy sighs from someone pretending to be faithful. Just me, my coffee machine, and a playlist that didn't remind me of Heartbreak. It was strange how quickly the world adjusted to my absence. For years, I had been Daniel's better half. Now, I was just Faith, whole on my own. And honestly, I liked her. But the world didn't let me be quiet for long. 2 weeks after I left, my friend Clara sent me a link with the message, "You need to see this." I clicked, expecting gossip, and oh, it was gossip. All right. Someone from Daniel's office had leaked screenshots from a group chat where his mistress, let's call her Sandra the Bold, bragged about their romantic escape. The only problem? She also bragged that Daniel's sweet, clueless wife was at home probably baking cookies for his parents. The irony could have fueled a comedy show. The post went viral in our little circle and then beyond it. Comments poured in, open quote, "Isn't that the guy whose wife was at the same resort?" Plot twist, the wife was with his dad. "This is better than Netflix." Close quote. I almost choked on my tea reading that last one. Daniel called that night. I didn't answer. Then he texted, open quote, "This is getting out of hand. Please talk to me." Close quote. I stared at the screen, then typed back one simple line, open quote, "Maybe next time you should think before taking your mistress to a resort with your parents." Close quote. I didn't send it. I deleted it, smiled, and blocked his number. Some peace isn't given. It's chosen. The next week, I started working on myself. New hair, new gym routine, new energy. When I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror one morning, I thought, so this is what freedom looks like. Then came an unexpected text from Mr. Thompson. Open quote, "Lunch? I made that lasagna you love." Close quote. I hesitated for a second, not because of awkwardness, but because life had gotten deliciously unpredictable lately. I went. When I arrived, he greeted me at the door, apron still on, the smell of garlic and baked cheese floating through the air. Faith, he beamed. You look radiant. Divorce glow's different, I teased. We laughed, sat down, and talked like two people who had survived the same storm and come out wiser. Halfway through lunch, he said something that stuck with me. You know, people think revenge means destruction. But sometimes it's just living better than they ever imagined you would. I smiled. Then I must be a master of revenge already. He raised his glass. To that. Meanwhile, Daniel's life was falling apart in real time. He tried to repair things with Sandra, but apparently, she wasn't built for consequences. Rumor had it she dumped him after the viral post, claiming she didn't sign up to date a family scandal. One evening, I received a message from a number I didn't recognize. Open quote, Faith, it's Daniel. I'm sorry for everything. I miss you. Close quote, I didn't respond. Instead, I posted a photo of my dinner with the caption, Peace tastes better when it's homemade. The comments rolled in fast. Everyone got the message, but the real twist came 2 months later. Mrs. Thompson invited me to a family dinner. She said it was important. Against my better judgment, I went. When I walked in, Daniel was there looking 10 years older, sitting next to an empty chair. The tension could have sliced through glass. Mrs. Thompson gave a small, polite smile. Faith, dear, we just wanted to talk things through, properly this time. I sat, crossed my legs, and looked Daniel square in the eyes. Talk about what exactly? The cheating, the lying, or the part where you almost destroyed your parents' marriage with your stupidity? Mrs. Thompson blinked. Wait, what? Oh, yes. He hadn't told her that his father and I shared the same resort floor. Daniel panicked. Faith, please don't. But it was too late. I leaned back, calm and deliberate. Oh, didn't he tell you? Your husband booked a suite right across from the one your father and I were in. It was educational. The table went silent. Mr. Slay, Thompson nearly choked on his drink, trying not to laugh. Mrs. Thompson glared at her son. You took her to the same resort we go to every year? Daniel stammered. It wasn't. Unbelievable, she muttered, shaking her head. You've embarrassed us all. I simply sipped my wine, smiling faintly. That night, as I left, Mr. Thompson walked me to my car. You really are fearless, he said with quiet admiration. I shrugged. Fear left me when love did. He nodded, thoughtful. So what now? I move forward, I said. Maybe I write a book. How to Humiliate a Cheater in 5 Elegant Steps. He chuckled. I'd buy 10 copies. I drove home that night with the windows down, music loud, and a grin I couldn't suppress. I had turned my pain into a punchline, and somehow that felt better than any revenge I could have planned. But the story wasn't quite done. Because sometimes karma likes a grand finale. 3 months passed. Enough time for the chaos to settle, or so I thought. By then, Daniel and I were legally separated. The papers sat neatly signed, filed, and finalized. Every trace of him had been scrubbed from my new apartment. No shirts, no toothbrush, no guilt. Just quiet. Beautiful, earned quiet. But the internet hadn't forgotten. That resort post, the one that had started it all, was still circulating. People had turned it into memes, TikToks, and even dramatic reenactments. Faith and the father-in-law had somehow become a mini legend online. One evening, I was scrolling through comments under a video when I saw one that made me pause. Open quote, Girl, whoever you are, I hope you're living your best life right now. You deserve the world. Close quote. I smiled. Oh, I am. But fate wasn't done entertaining me. A few days later, Clara called, trying to suppress her laughter. Faith, you won't believe this, she said between snorts. Your ex just got fired. I blinked. What? Why? Apparently, someone at work found out he used company funds for that business trip, the one that turned out to be his romantic getaway. I almost dropped my phone. Wait, the company paid for the affair? Yep, she said. Corporate card, fancy hotel, all of it. HR found out through, get this, the viral post. I covered my mouth, half shocked, half delighted. Karma wasn't just knocking, it was hosting a concert. Daniel tried to call me again that night, but I didn't answer. He left a long, pitiful voicemail. Faith, please, I lost everything. My job, my reputation, even Mom barely talks to me now. I made a mistake, okay? I miss us. I miss how you made life calm. I deleted the message. Calm was something I had built on my own now, and I wasn't about to let him rent space in it again. Life, however, had other plans for poetic closure. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Thompson invited me to a charity gala her company was hosting. I almost said no. I didn't want drama, but curiosity won. Besides, she'd been genuinely kind to me through everything. The night of the gala, I walked in wearing a black gown that could make silence turn heads. Cameras flashed, whispers started, and right across the room, there he was. Daniel, looking pale and uncomfortable in an ill-fitted suit, clearly there out of obligation. His eyes widened when he saw me. For a moment, time froze. I smiled politely, lifted my champagne glass, and walked right past him. Mr. Thompson appeared beside me a few minutes later, dapper as ever. You always did know how to make an entrance, he said. Timing, I replied. It's all about timing. As the night went on, I found myself surrounded by people, new faces, genuine laughter. For once, I wasn't the cheated wife. I was just Faith, confident, whole, a woman who had turned humiliation into art. Midway through the evening, the event host called my name. I froze. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, we'd like to honor Faith Thompson for her outstanding volunteer work with the community shelter. I blinked in disbelief. Mrs. Thompson winked from across the table. Apparently, she'd nominated me months ago, quietly, kindly. Applause filled the room. And there, among the clapping, I saw Daniel. His hands stayed still. His face was unreadable. But his eyes, they told the whole story. Regret, loss, realization. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pity either. Just clarity. When the applause died down, I walked over to him. You know, I said softly. I used to think forgiveness meant letting someone back in. Now I know it just means not carrying their weight anymore. He swallowed hard. Faith. Goodbye, Daniel, I said, and turned away for the last time. Outside, the night air was cool and full of city noise. I exhaled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Mr. Thompson caught up to me at the valet, offering his arm with a playful grin. Need a ride, troublemaker? I laughed. Always. As we drove off, city lights flickering on the windshield, I realized something. Sometimes life doesn't hand you revenge, it hands you peace, and lets everyone else choke on the irony. And that, I decided, was better than any revenge I could have planned. So tell me, if you were in my shoes that weekend, would you have done the same? Drop your answer in the comments, hit that like button if you felt every word, subscribe, and share this story. Because trust me, more unbelievable real life stories are coming.